What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about EA and whatever the hell that's going on behind the scenes. With Markus Lehto leaving, we're going to take a look at who he is, for people who don't know, and then the reasons why he left. We'll take a look at Ridgeline Games as well, because it's basically being shut down by EA right now. So yeah, go ahead and let me know what you think about all this mess that's going on in EA, which is apparently going to affect the next Battlefield title in a very worrying way. If you enjoyed the video and if you found it helpful, do make sure to give it a like. I will be covering Battlefield 2042 news and the next Battlefield game that's coming out in 2025. So if you are a Battlefield player and watching this, this is the place for you. So subscribe to the channel as well. With all that said, let's just get right into the video. So for you guys who don't know, first of all, let's see who Markus Lehto was. Markus Lehto was a co-founder of Ridgeline Games, which was responsible for the Battlefield 2025's campaign, and he's just left EA. So what happened was he started to remove that part where he was working with EA on the next Battlefield in his LinkedIn bio and in his Twitter and all that kind of stuff. The community started just looking around for a reason. So Markus Lehto came in and he said that this was all because of personal reasons, which is quite hard to believe. And why is it hard to believe? Because EA is now shutting down Ridgeline Games, the very studio that Lehto was the co-founder of. Now about Ridgeline Games, it was an American development studio and it was owned by EA. So EA has every right to do whatever they want with it, and they're apparently shutting it down. It was announced, the studio was announced on September 8, 2022 to lead the development of new narrative campaigns set in Battlefield universe. A new narrative campaign set in Battlefield universe is the single player part of the next Battlefield game, which is set to be released in 2025. What happened was, on February 28, 2024, following the departure of Markus Lehto, Electronic Arts announced an action to wind down Ridgeline Games as a standalone studio and relocate some of the employees to Ripple Effect Studios, with the single-player campaign overseen by Criterion Games instead. So what happened is, Markus Lehto left EA for some personal reasons, as he claimed. A few days later, EA shuts down the entire Ridgeline Games for God knows what reason, and the single-player part of the next Battlefield is now being developed by Criterion Games. So some of the employees of Ridgeline Games are now basically a part of Ripple Effect and a part of Criterion Games. That's basically what happened. So let's get back to Markus Lehto and see if his claim about the reasons why he left being personal reasons is true or not, because that just can't be personal. If you leave without any explanation and say that my reasons were personal, so people think maybe he had some personal issues, not having enough time to basically work on a storyline for a game. Then he left. But then when a few days later, DICE basically shuts down that same studio, now things get interesting. Because if everything was personal, DICE would have not done this. I believe what Lehto calls personal reasons is kind of a conflict with EA inside. So in my opinion, that's what's happened. Now, some people say that Criterion Games should not be leading a Battlefield single-player campaign. And I kind of know what their perspective is. Like, their point of view is obvious to me. They say that Criterion Games is a Need for Speed creator. They're the developers of some Need for Speed games. But back in the day, they've got some interesting games. Like, you guys remember Black from PlayStation 2? I don't know if you guys have played that game, but it was developed by Criterion Games, and it was, let's say, an advanced game for 2006. It was ridiculously good back in the day. And these people have also developed some of the best Need for Speeds out there. Need for Speed Rivals was not the perfect Need for Speed, but it was way better than most of the modern day Need for Speeds. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which is arguably the top 3 Need for Speeds out there, and Most Wanted 2012 is also another one of their games. And keep in mind that a lot of people working in Criterion Games have left and been replaced by some new people. So this means that the team that have worked on Need for Speed titles is not the same team that's going to be working on a storyline for the next Battlefield game. So just forget about that. I believe we don't have any other choice. We just have to wait and see how they deliver. But there was so many buzz about this whole thing with Markus Lehto leaving, Ridgeline Games being shut down. Like, people were kind of worried a lot about what's going on. First of all, I do believe that a single-player campaign is very important for a Battlefield game. because some of the best Battlefield games ever had some great stories as well. Like Battlefield Bad Company 2, it was a revolution when it comes to multiplayer gaming, but it also had a brilliant single-player campaign. Battlefield 3 was a huge leap from Bad Company 2. The multiplayer was basically on another level, but the single-player campaign was one of the best, and I do believe Battlefield players, every now and then, just like to go back and play that storyline because it was so rich and very well thought about. And it was really fun to have a massively multiplayer game with a perfect story. That was really good. Now, Battlefield 4 didn't have, let's say, very rich story, but I wouldn't say it was bad. It was better than nothing. Like, it was way better than having no storyline. So I believe Battlefield titles have always had a single player part, and this needs to just go on. Like, we need that. Especially if it's a story about a squad, just like Bad Company 2 or Battlefield 3 or even Battlefield 4. So that's what I think about this whole single player thing. We don't have anything to do as Battlefield fans. We just have to basically trust Criterion Games for delivering what they should deliver. But what I think is more concerning here is not the departure of Markus Lehto. It's not Ridgeline Games being shut down. It's basically the news about the next Battlefield game having a free-to-play Battle Royale mode. That's what concerns me. I don't think there will be a midline in between these two scenarios. It's either going to be very successful, that will attract players to buy the game and come and play Conquest as the core of Battlefield, or it's going to be so bad that people would never even think about buying the actual game with playing the free-to-play Battle Royale. That's going to be it. And I'm going to make a video about this whole Battle Royale thing, discussion that's been going on for a few days in Battlefield community. Does Battlefield really need a Battle Royale game mode? So I'm going to be covering that as well. But if I want to sum up today's video, all that's been going on is that Markus Lehto, the co-founder of Ridgeline Games, which was responsible for the single-player part of the next Battlefield game, has left EA. A few days later, EA is announcing that they're shutting down Ridgeline Games and taking some of the employees to Criterion Games and Ripple Effect to work on the next Battlefield. And now Criterion Games, which is known for making Need for Speed titles, is responsible for the single player of the Battlefield 2025. So yeah, that's basically what's been going on in the past week. Do make sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole thing. You think Criterion Games is capable of making a single player campaign, a worthy single player campaign for the next Battlefield title, or it's just going to be a mess? We don't know anything about Ridgeline Games as well. Maybe they would mess things up as well, right? But what we've got now is Criterion Games being famous for making Need for Speed titles, and now they're going to make a single-player campaign for Battlefield 2025. So let me know if you think that campaign is going to be worthwhile. Let me know about campaigns in Battlefield. Do you think that we need campaigns in Battlefield games? And just comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. Until next time, guys, stay cool.